Food deserts are growing in Ohio and other states. See where they are. This article is by Marty of the Ohio Capital Journal, published February 9th, 2026. An interactive map of neighborhoods lacking easy access to fresh food was released late last month. Ohio, as well as every other state, is flecked with black census tracts that meet the group's definition of food deserts. It didn't have to be this way, said a group that produced the map, the Institute of Local Self Reliant. If the federal government hadn't stopped enforcing a Depression era antitrust law in the early 1980s, independent grocery stores would still be thriving in small towns and in poor urban neighborhoods, it said. Quote, since the early 1980s, independence market share has fallen from over 50% to about 25%, end quote. The group said in a report accompanying the map. It defined an urban food desert or apartheid zone. It defined an urban food desert as a low income census tract with at least 500 people or 33% of the population living a mile or more from the nearest supermarket, large grocery, or supercenter. For rural tracts, the parameters were the same, except people had to be 10 or more miles away from the nearest groceries. Convenience and dollar stores didn't count as grocery stores. In Ohio, predictably, the largest geographical deserts are in rural areas, many concentrated in the southeastern portion of the state. But if you zoom in on the big cities, deserts aren't hard to find. In Columbus, for example, 8 contiguous tracts east and just north of downtown are deserts. They include the Milo Grogan and Linden community. Such neighborhoods were never wealthy, but they haven't always lacked easy grocery access. But then the government stopped enforcing a law that prohibited big players from forcing suppliers to give them special deals. Quote, poverty in small towns are not new, the report said. Food deserts are. They arrived relatively recently, beginning in the late 1980s, as the suspension of Robinson-Patman Act enforcement undermined competition and drove consolidation in the grocery sector. In 1936, Robinson-Patman Act requires suppliers to offer the same deals to all buyers regardless of their size. Discounts can be offered for big purchases over smaller ones, but only to an extent of the savings.